Hey, everybody, this is your boy John, aka Captain Lestage here. We're going to be talking about Christmas for a second, but again, this time of year, we're always talking about this Christmas magic, this joy, family, the season of giving. But for most of us, it's the ghosts that show up first, the ghost of who we used to be, the things we said, the people we lost, the chances we didn't take. Today, we're not running from them, we're inviting them in because the past, the present, and the future, they're not spirits, they're mirrors. So stay tuned.
Evolve, adapt, overcome. Power up your mind and level up your soul. It just takes one small step to be
Hey, everybody, this is your boy John, aka Captain Stash, as I already said. And as always, with me is Mr. Grumpy Beard.
What's up, everybody? I friggin' love that music, man. That music gets me so
Oh, I know. We both were like, I was like, oh, yes. Yes. And we always get our, I don't know, our tingles, I guess, if you want to call it. I don't know why I paused there. But anyways, yes, we're going to be talking about Christmas. Yes, we've talked about it in the past, and we're definitely doing a different, I guess, direction this time. We're going to be definitely talking about kind of like like the Scrooge theme here, but like, the whole, the three spirits or the three ghosts, right? So you have your past, your future, and your present.
Yeah, so this is the ghosts of Christmas. Yeah.
Yes, I know
Yeah,
the ghost of
that's-
Christmas. Now, the point is that we're gonna
Right.
we're gonna do it a little differently, right? This is gonna be a little, if you think about it, a little bit more enlightenment, like little
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
opportunity here. So, but anyways,
I will say this for just to kind of start the episode a little bit, because A Christmas Carol is like my favorite thing around Christmas time. I mean, I know everybody has like their
Well,
Christmas time,
yeah.
Christmas season, movies or your specials, but for some people it's Peanuts. For others it's like The Grinch,
Grinch. Yes.
but I do love watching A Christmas Carol,
Is it
and
because you like the Scrooge? Like you like Scrooge himself?
I can relate.
I figured.
But some of my favorites, and a couple of these are just named Scrooge. But I do have three, although the third one's not really one of my favorites, to be honest. But
Really?
um, but my all time favorite right now is Scrooge from 1970, and that's with Albert Finney.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be the 1951 version.
I do like that one, but it's not my favorite. The 1970 is more of like a musical type version. There's a lot more music in it, but I do like that one. I think Albert Finney does a good job of being Scrooge in that one. But the Scrooge that was in 1951. Initially, when it first came out, obviously it's in black and white, and then they recolored it much later on. But that one is Alistar Sim. That one is wildly known right now as the best version of A Christmas Carol. When it comes to like the accuracy of the Dickens, story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then A Christmas Carol, which was 1984 with George C. Scott. Those are my top three.
So what? You don't hold on. You don't like Mickey Mouse version? Or
No.
or probably some of the
No.
hold on, there's a Jim Carrey one. The animated one.
And I don't mind that, but I like some of the classic ones.
No, I mean I get it. I mean I do understand the story. I also know the story really, I would say just in general, besides even just the movie versions, I mean it does make sense. I mean, if you look at Christmas itself, I mean you're looking at an old man who really despises Christmas, and you really don't know the reason why at first, but then he gets basically these spirits that come in, and they, one of them was his old partner, and then I know in different versions, like usually it's like the one about the future is like, or no, sorry, not the future, the present. Future is more like death, like the Grim Reaper.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
the president's more like, it depends on who, like what version you see, but like someone who's kind of like, okay, so this is what's happening now, and this is what the decisions you made. So let me just show you what this infects, and stuff. But I do like the story. I mean, it's different where you look at a lot of Christmas movies, like like you said, like The Grinch or A Christmas Story was always a good one for me. you're thinking of like, I always think of like, I know some stupid ones like Elf, or like
Yeah.
like Santa Claus or things like that. I mean, they're always good, but like this one kind of hits differently because you're taking a guy who literally is like the most like irritable, like usually the most pissed off guy you'd ever see in your life, like just doesn't want to be around anybody, like literally just wants to be so alone and this and that. He's like one of the most wealthiest people in this town, and then basically it like having this emotional roller coaster of a ride, even though it's like technically a dream, but it's literally like him seeing everything all at once, and then like he wakes up and he's like, well, I'm going to change my life around, and literally one night. It's crazy because to me it's like, I mean, now granted in real life, sure, could you have an epiphany like that? I'm not saying you can't, but like that's insane to have all of that happen to you in one night, and then you automatically change your lifestyle, your opinions on all this. And I remember the episode we did recently about gratefulness, right? And the thankfulness piece to this. So like Christmas, I mean, I don't want to get into the history of Christmas, but technically, you know yes, let's just say back in the day, and I mentioned this to you a while back, that yes, let's just say Coca-Cola had some hands and some things that back in the day they made Christmas for what it is. But if we really look at how or what really the meaning of it is, right? I think more like we've talked about before, it's not always about the giving, it's not always about receiving, right? It's always, I feel like for me, it's always about the time that you get to spend with others, right? The time of the year,
Right.
because sometimes you're busy, sometimes things happen, and it's one of those things where Matt and I always record, and we're always like, man, we should hang out, man, we should hang out, man. And I do, man, I do want to hang out with you, and not saying that I don't want to hang out with you only because of the podcast. I just want to be able to spend time with you outside of doing this. But like, for me, like I never really cared about, honestly, I mean, I guess as a kid, you would think like, oh, it's all about the opening the presents and doing that, and seeing this the Christmas tree, Christmas morning, opening all those gifts up, like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted. I wanted like a BB gun. I'm thinking of A Christmas Story for a second, but like these are the kinds of things, though, I think with Christmas that I hope that nowadays, we don't turn into Scrooge, right? We turn into hopefully the aftermath of
Right.
what Scrooge becomes, because I think we've kind of lost the touch, as a society.
Oh,
Like,
definitely. Yeah.
and I'm just curious, man. I know we're going to be talking about, of course, this, but like, what is like, and I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I, just to remind me or refresh me again, like, what was one, let's say, tradition that you would normally have, for Christmas? Like, what was one thing that you remember, like, let's say as a kid or even as an adult now? Like, what is one thing that you've always liked to do for Christmas? Like, what, like that one Christmas tradition?
I don't know if we really had a lot of traditions, to be honest. I mean, I know like after not being a kid, but when, just the wife and the kids and I, like we always kind of had to choose. And this is kind of, I guess, more of a regret than it is, like, because we never really built our own family
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
traditions, right? Like, because we always went to, either her parents one year or my parents another year, and we always did that kind of swap off. But we never really built our own set of traditions. But I know, I mean,
I guess what was okay. So in the sense of
I
that,
think like every kid always wanted to do like that one present on Christmas Eve, and I think that was always one thing that we always did.
okay.
Like growing up, is we always did like, oh, can I have that one present?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was always the one thing that we kind of like, got to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't really like a one tradition thing that I could like put my finger on and be like, yeah, that was the one.
Well, then I guess the question is this, because I know you said you relate to Scrooge a little bit. You know, what are your stances now on it, like about Christmas in general, or just like this time of year?
I mean, I'm not like anti-Christmas. I mean, we obviously celebrate Christmas, but I mean, it's more of like I mean, I would rather be like with family or friends at this point. Like, because really Christmas is just, we kind of do our thing, and that's kind of like the end of it, because her parents are now in Arizona, and we'll probably spend Christmas with my dad.
Yeah,
But,
fair enough.
I mean, there's really not much else that kind of goes on Christmas nowadays. So it not to say that it's lame, but most of the time it's either like, I mean, I think even her sister now is like, it's not happening like by Christmas, but I mean, I think they're planning to move like to Kentucky or something.
That's kind of weird, but okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it's going to be even like one of those things where most of her family is not here,
Mm.
so it's really just trying to like navigate like what are we doing Christmas now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do we do our own thing? Do we have like a friend
Like a friend's miss?
a friend's miss or something? Like that's kind of like what we
I mean, you could. I mean,
kind of think of, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like thinking outside the box on like what we're doing. Like, do we have Christmas like after Christmas, like celebrating and just doing our own thing? Do we maybe go see a movie? Do we do a date night? Like what do we do? Because I mean, obviously there are things that are open. Not everybody on the planet celebrates Christmas.
no, of course not. I mean, so I mean, I guess I know, with you and I mean, we're at different points of life and things like that. So I mean, it's nice, I guess, and from my perspective, is like, yes, I mean, having a 2-year-old kid. I mean, he's not quite at the age of like he understand, like he knows about Christmas, he knows about certain things, but like he's not at the point of like, oh my god, it's a present, and it's like that same feeling as you would get as a kid, but like like now, at my kind of like where I felt like where my dad was when I was a kid too is like, it's not even so much about, the, like I said, about the giving or the receiving part of it. It's just like, that time that you get to spend because, I'll admit you're right. I mean, if my family was, they were like halfway across the country or other things like that, I'd be in that same boat as you. Is like, up until a certain point, we'd be like, okay, so what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go hang out with some friends and kind of do our own thing, or go see a movie or whatever? I mean, I think because I mean it's tough, right? I mean, when you're looking at a holiday like this, or even just like the season of it. I mean, I always say that Christmas is never really just one day, right? I think like for me anyways, like the kind of like the month is kind of like Christmas. I know some people think that Christmas has to be on the 25th, no matter what. End of story. I'm like, that's BS. And I'll say it right now because like I remember my grandfather back in the day, like whenever he came out to visit us, it was in the middle of I think it was like June or July, and he would come out and he'd be like, hey, guess what? Okay, you got your birthday, your Christmas gift, and that's it. I said, go. So go. We're gonna go to a store. You're gonna go pick your stuff out, and that's it. You're not gonna get anything from me, moving forward. But like, so again, that Christmas in July thing, or like doing stuff like that. But to me, it was more, even also just spending the time with them. I mean, I of course, like as a kid, I always loved getting the gifts and all that feeling. But I think as I got older, especially when I started to see like family members like kind of pass on and do all this, to me, it was always like it wasn't even just like the month thing. Like my goal was to always try to have more time with people, right? Because we don't get a lot of opportunities all the time because we're working, we're doing other things. There's busy lives and this and that. But like I never wanted to be in this case, like I said, what we're talking about in a minute, about like Scrooge. Like I don't want to be that that miserable, irritable guy who just wants to sit and be alone and like just stew on his own bullshit. Like no, like I want to be, spending time with, like you said, like family, friends, be able to do all that. I mean, I guess the only really, I would say one of my favorite Christmas traditions, which I'm actually looking forward to this year, is, some of the food, man. I don't know. It was one thing that I remember as a, like growing up, like, I mean, we'd have like different holidays, but one of my favorite thing, and I don't know why it was, but it's the sausage bread. I think you've had some of that before, but it is for whatever reason that food always hit like home for me, and it was just one of those things that growing up, and that was one of the things we would do was like sausage bread and like a pepperoni bread. But I always loved the sausage bread. The sausage bread is always like the thing that would go away like in like 2 seconds. But I would say like you, right? Like opening up a present on Christmas Eve, right, and being able to be like, all right, you have an option between like these two things right here, like which one do you want to open? And you're always like, oh, maybe I should open up the biggest one, and like be able to grab it and, like, oh my God. And then you're like, okay. And then of course you open up everything else and then everyone's like, okay, now get out of my hair so that the adults could talk or, go do your own thing. But,
Right.
for me, I think this year, especially, again, being an adult, being this and that, I I always hated traveling. I always hated going to like this person's house, this person's house, I'm like, and it was too much, right?
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like I was saying, like I hated doing that like all the time. Not that I didn't want to, but it was just never having I always felt like I never had the freedom of just saying like, no, we're doing something just us this year, because it was always like, no, well, we spent Thanksgiving with your family, now we're going to my family, and then
Like
next
vice
year
versa,
is
yeah.
next year is vice versa, and it's like, well, we are at your parents now, and well, we can go to your dad's for maybe dessert or something, and it's like, oh, come on.
Well, no, and I
it,
mean, and
it's a
you're
lot.
right. I
It's a
mean,
lot. It's a lot.
well, the only thing is though is like, I guess both sides, right? Like, you don't have too many people that were divorced in both sides of the family, right?
No.
So that's the other thing. So like for me, it was more like I had to, because both of my parents are divorced and they have again. So it's kind of like it's like keep extending, and then of course I like with Allie, like her parents never divorced either. So so for me it's like boom, 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 going over here, going over there, and now with Wyatt, being at his age, I'm like, especially Christmas, I'm like, until he gets to a certain point, I'm like, I don't want to keep traveling constantly, and so like this year I was like, no, I'm like, if you want to come see Wyatt, you come here, blah blah blah, like so on and so forth, because that's the thing with me. I'm like, I don't mind going and seeing people and spending that time. But like the other thing is like, Christmas Eve for us, it's gonna be like at my grandmother's house, which is fine. And then, Christmas Day, her parents are coming over, my dad and Holly will come down, and, basically my mom and probably Bruce will come down at some point, and then, like that'll be the end of that, and then we'll have like another Christmas a little later. Just a little different, but like you know what I mean. Like it's fine that it's kind of close together, but at the same time, you don't want to spend all that time just like traveling all over the damn place. And so like that was the thing with me is like,
No, I mean, you're at a point where you and Allie have to like establish your own shtick.
well,
You have to
yeah,
establish like your own traditions, because once you go down that road, I mean, we automatically just were down that road, and it was like the switch off was just automatic, and it was like one set of family was expecting the switch off every single year. So it was like, no, you were expected, like, we're just doing it. We're just doing it. We're just doing it. And it's just, to break out of it, it became something that was impossible. And, you know, you just have to develop like your own set of tradition and be like, no, like if you want to see Wyatt, or if you want to see us like on Christmas, like you just have to come here, or we can plan something after. Like,
oh yeah, and that's kind of
it is kind of what it is. And I mean, I don't want to extend this any longer than it has.
no, I know, but I'm just saying like, so yeah, I mean, if you guys want to like reach out to us, like, if you, yes, the 8 of you that want to listen, right now, I'm just saying, if you just let us know what are your traditions, what are your things that you like to do, just send us something, we'd always love to hear from you guys. But anyways, jumping into
Before we get into this, because I
okay.
did want to talk about Scrooge real quick, because even though like A Christmas Carol, Dickens never really gives him a fancy title of what he does in the book or in the movie.
Well, I mean, it almost sounds like he was
Um,
kind of like a, not quite a banker, but like,
right, but he runs a counting house, and back in the day, it was a Wednesday, by the way.
it wasn't.
Um,
It was a Wednesday, by the way.
back in the day, that was a Dane Cook joke, if you didn't get that. So back in the day, accounting houses, they weren't shops per se, but
It was like a tax collector, right? In a sense.
not a tax collector, but desperate people would go if they needed a loan.
Oh, or kind of like a loan shark.
Yeah, I mean, a loan shark-ish, just legal. He's a businessman who lends money at a much higher interest rate.
Oh yeah.
He's a keeper of accounts, debts, and IOUs. So he just moves money, and that's kind of what he does. In the movie and in the book, he treats money as more real than people. That's the
Right.
That's the idea. So initially we get this idea that he's just kind of like an a-hole. He's kind of just evil. He just hates everybody. It's because he treats money as that. It's more real. It's more of a thing that is tangible than his time investing in people.
Fair enough.
So that's what I wanted to say before we
Okay.
before we got into that.
Fair enough. Fine. And so, yes, I'll mention the first one here. So, yes, we got the Ghost of Christmas Past, which basically represents memory, regret, and redemption. Okay. So, in this case, when we're talking about Dickens' version, Ghost of Christmas Past, it symbolizes self awareness, right? The painful yet necessary act of remembering. And so, in modern psychology, this confirms reflective memory is essential for behavioral change. So, here's some little research tidbit here. A 2017 Harvard study on self reflection found that revisiting emotional memories increases empathy and pro social behavior by up to 23%. Okay. But only when the reflection includes self forgiveness.
I think that's the hardest part right there.
Right there. Includes self forgiving of oneself, which is crazy because, I think in a lot of day and age, especially where we're talking about mental health, and of course I have a mental health t-shirt on, it's one of those things that it is one of the hardest things you could do for yourself is to literally forgive yourself about the actions you made in the past, and especially like what we're talking about here. So let's dive into this for a second. The neuroscience angle, okay? The hippocampus and the amygdala,
Mhm.
they light up when recalling emotional experiences, linking emotion to memory. So this is why holiday nostalgia feels overwhelming. So our brain relives both joy and pain. I don't know why I was about to say this. The Abdullah Oblongata. No, it has nothing to do with this,
No.
but yeah. And so, like, again, nostalgia can be a double-edged sword, right? So it comforts, but it also traps. So in this case, people often replay their greatest hits or greatest regrets, like Scrooge watching his younger self at Fezziwigs. So in this case, right? So we got some questions for you. Ready? What do we do when it comes to avoiding revisiting? Okay, sorry. Let me rephrase this because I just screwed.
Well,
that
you
all up.
just you
I screwed that whole thing up.
Oh,
Hold
boy.
on a second. What do we avoid revisiting because it hurts too much? The relationship we broke or the dream that we gave up? Because here's the thing, growth demands we revisit those ghosts without letting them define us. So in this case, right? So I'm going to ask you, Matt, what do you necessarily avoid when it comes to revisiting because it hurts too much?
Wow.
Oh yeah, I went there, Matt. I wanted to pick on you.
I'm not answering that question.
Oh, come on.
Podcast.
This is the podcast. This is the whole point. This is
This is not a therapy session.
Oh, well, I thought this kind of... No, I'm joking. Fine. If you don't want to answer that, fine. So, okay, fine. I'll answer it because I don't care because I'm not afraid. Anyway, so when it comes to avoiding, or revisiting because it hurts too much. Okay, so, well, I mean, because like I've said in the past, for me, I mean, granted, this kind of not really sort of regarding Christmas, but like, yeah, I mean, for example, me being diagnosed with PTSD, I mean, it doesn't really help with certain things, right? Kind of, for me, it kind of comes and goes, right? So, some of the things that, I did while I was overseas and all this other stuff, I mean, it's one of those things, man. I mean, you can't really, I mean, it comes and it it's there and then it goes away and then so it's not something that is always happening, but like, anything could be triggering or anything that could happen that, it just pops up and you're like, shit. And then you have to kind of deal with that in the time frame. So I guess for me, it's not really even the dreams that I gave up because like the way I look at it is like, yeah, I've had plenty of relationships that sucked. I think a lot of us can say that relationships in general suck. And I'm only saying this as like for what it is, especially the ones that either, you were cheated on or it just was a horrible breakup or whatever that case is. I've had plenty of them. I don't want to relive them. I mean, but they have also made me stronger. But like the dreams that I've given up, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, you know, I know when I joined the military, I wanted to, you know, do more and I wanted to do the best things that I could. I mean, I got out for my own reasons and I'm not going to go down that hole. Okay. But I will say that, I do want to, maybe potentially look at, going active duty again and trying to be more better of a version of myself. Like, as I want to be able to do the things that I remember as a kid where, we were traveling, we were doing other things. We got to see things that most people on the planet probably don't ever get a chance to see. So, like, being able to visit places that, you know, I would say most people wouldn't do, so like going to Germany, going back to Italy, or, going to, different parts of the country, like, going to places that, people don't, necessarily have a chance to go do. Like for me, that's a dream of mine that I want to do. And like I said, I never really gave up on that dream because I'm still wanting to do all that. It's just for right now, I have to do certain things to get to that point. So, for me, I've recognized this, but it's not like I've given everything up. You know what I mean? Like, cause like I don't have that regret because the way I look at it is, and this is hopefully for everybody else too. You know, yes, and you know what? I'll just kind of mention it into this point here. Regret isn't punishment; it's a compass pointing to what still matters because it's true, right? Sometimes you may think the choice you made, what you would have thought at that time would have been the right decision, right? Because at the
Right.
time you don't have a choice. Sometimes you'd have to choose between the two, whether you think it's good or bad. But at the same time, I like that. It's a compass pointing to what still matters. Because hopefully the point is here is that you have that purpose, you have that goal in mind, and you want to continue and you want to move forward with it because hopefully, right, your goals line up to what you want to do and you become that version that, this compass is pointing towards.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going back to the Charles Dickens story when we see Scrooge and he's watching his past. I mean, there's moments in there where when he's seeing his younger self at Fezziwigs, there's joy there. But then he sees moments where there's regret.
Of course.
He sees himself where he doesn't react or he doesn't do the things where he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, and there's deep pain and moments where he's like, "No, take me home. I don't want to see I don't want to see this anymore. Like, bring me to another memory because I can't keep watching this."
Okay.
And there's those moments in that like that you see that and you're watching it and it's I mean your heart kind of breaks for him, but at the same time it's like you made the bed that you're sleeping in by the choices that you made,
Well,
by,
that's what I
by the
mean.
choices that you
Right.
made. And as much as like you want to try to and he does try to like, hey, go talk to her again, like why are you just letting her leave, and
Yeah, you idiot.
it's like you can't change what's already.
Well, because you're right. I do remember that in the story where, that's what he would say his love of his life and that he let her go and then he became who he is now
Right,
because
because
of it.
he was just thinking about work and making money, and he was thinking of the future where she was like, "No, I just want to have you
And a family.
and a family and be married." And he was like, "No, like we need money and we need to get settled and make sure everything." And she's like,
Right. And
"No, we
then,
don't. I just want you."
right. And then basically he blew it,
Yeah, he
and he
blew his
can't.
chance. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you take the one about Christmas present.
So the Ghost of Christmas Present. It's that one is focused on awareness and gratitude. I mean, we did a
Wow.
whole the last Evolve episode was gratitude and thankfulness.
Well, then here we go.
So, the Ghost of Christmas Present. This one shows Scrooge how disconnected he's become from humanity. Laughter, generosity, community. In psychology, this is mindfulness deprivation,
Wow. Oh
the inability to stay rooted in the now.
my God. That's
So,
crazy.
some research here. University of California study showed that individuals who practiced daily gratitude journaling reported a 25% increase in life satisfaction and reduced physical illness over 10 weeks.
That's insane.
25%.
Think about that. So 10 weeks, that's a little less than 3 months. So just take literally a quarter of a year and be like, here you go. And try that.
Just daily gratitude journaling. I mean, it's not like you're writing a friggin' novel.
Oh,
I
wait,
mean,
like you mean the two, published ones that Matt's already produced here. But go ahead.
yeah.
He's like, don't mention that again.
But it could just be bullet points of just one word each, like family, friend, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like just journaling what you're grateful for.
Matt, are you saying that's what you need to do? Just start. No.
I don't journal at all, but
well, then you know what?
I write a lot of other things, but
that's true.
You know, but gratitude activates the region in the brain tied to reward and empathy, literally rewiring the brain toward optimism. So, holiday anxiety. Many people feel pressure instead of peace.
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned that. Didn't we just talk about some of these things?
We just did. And obviously, we all know social media, right? Social media amplifies comparison. It makes the present feel like an endless checklist of inadequacy. I mean, you're always seeing somebody else's highlight reel, and you're like, man, that guy has it together.
Yeah. Oh, look at that
girl has it together. Like, look at what they're getting. Look what I have.
Yeah. Look at my Lamborghini I just bought. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Look at my Camry, my '98 Camry.
Piece of
Oh,
shit.
piece of shit. Can't even start without kicking it a few times.
I was gonna say something, but go ahead. Keep going.
Anyways, active gratitude. This is naming specific people or moments that anchor us. Dickens' Cratchit family are poor, but they're rich in presence. A reminder that joy doesn't scale with wealth. And I think that's like the key component. Like they were just happy being together. It didn't matter that they had the smallest fucking bird for dinner.
Well,
right? That bird, if you watch any of these movies, was the smallest thing, most pathetic looking bird.
Well, didn't they also split a pea?
It was a pheasant.
Yeah, didn't they? But they also didn't have too much there too. I know in some versions some of them were splitting a pea, like a little tiny.
I don't know if you can split a pea, but
well, no, I'm just saying it's crazy to see that though. Is all I'm saying.
But it's that reminder that joy doesn't come with the wealth. It's in the presence of people, and when I always bring this back to Scrooge, because when he's watching what's happening with the Cratchit family, with his nephew, right? That was the nephew. Like they're playing this game, and it's all basically they're just making fun of him.
Right.
Like left and right. But when he's watching them, he's bewildered at how happy they are just being together. And
right.
it's sort of like that feeling of but they don't have anything.
Right.
They don't have money. That bird wouldn't even feed Bob Cratchit. Never mind the rest of the family. Why are they so happy? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I think the most touching moment, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter which version of, A Christmas Carol you look at or Scrooge in general. When you look at Tiny Tim, man, okay? Because I know that was the character's name. Like the little boy, okay? And he's got, his crutches and just walking around. He's the happy, most go-luckiest kid you've ever seen. And the fact that, his dad basically was saying, I'm sorry, son. We don't have enough money this year. I wish I could get you something. He's like, that's okay. And he's just going to give his dad a hug and stuff and then you look at Scrooge going, and he's balling up, he's tearing up. And I'm sitting there
and he's so concerned with what's going to happen to him. They don't have the money for food. He needs medical care.
Right. And he needs medicine.
Yeah.
Right. And he needs all that. And so you see Scrooge at this point and you're just like, wow. So there is a human underneath this
Yeah.
hard
You,
exterior.
you start seeing them breaking a little bit more. And then obviously the next one is where you do see him break, but it's the ultimate kind of end game moment that you see, and you can handle that one.
I'll handle this one. Okay. So yes, the ghost of Christmas yet to come, or basically future. So yes, the fear, the hope, and legacy. Oh boy, that word
Or
legacy.
lack thereof.
There's very lack of legacy here. So, when you're looking at the ghost of Christmas yet to come, again, never speaks. So, because I know each version is a little different, but typically it's almost like kind of like the Grim Reaper. Kind of looks like a Grim Reaper a little bit. Basically, it reflects our fear of what silence might mean, right? That we've wasted time. What our future may look like if we continue on our current trajectory. So, some research little tidbits here, right? So, in 2022, the American Psychological Association surveyed found that 63% of adults experience anticipatory, there we go, anxiety, fear of the future tied to uncertainty and lack of control. I always think of the fear of the unknown, which is basically kind of in layman's terms what that is. And neuroscientifically, imagining our future self activates the default mode network, but the less we identify with our future self, the more impulsive and short term our choices become. So I always think of this too as like, yes, I always kind of like think of like the midlife crisis moment. That I would say everyone's like, oh, every male has to have this midlife crisis moment, and being like, okay, well, we gotta do all this stuff because we're gonna be dying at some point, and we don't really know. So that's kind of how I view that a little bit, but. This explains why we procrastinate or self sabotage, right? So our brain literally treats future us as a stranger. That's, I like that. I do. I like how it does. I mean, because you don't know what you're going to look like, 20, 30, when you're an old, basically fart in a nursing home or whatever, happens in the future. But, so in this case, right? So Dickens used fear as motivation for change, right? So the grave scene isn't horror, it's a wake up call. Or an epiphany, right? Like, oh, you're right. I got to change now. And it was a message to Scrooge that if he continued, that he would have no legacy and nothing that he would leave behind. So I like this because, when you look at this, we do. I think as society or as humans, we tend to think we're just here for the right now. We don't know what's yet to come, right? And we're kind of living and we're kind of doing our own thing, but like. This is where I'd also say, like, if there's things in your life that you don't like or you're wanting to change, like if you the problem is most people don't have the willpower or the motivation. So in this case with Scrooge, yeah, he got the motivation real quick when when he was like, if you don't do this, and then he shows him his headstone and says, well, this will be you in a little bit of time. I'm not saying everyone needs to actually have the fear of death, basically coming to him. But, I think as a whole, like, especially, for me, like, I remember certain things as I was younger, like, I wanted to be, better, right? Because I know that, we always have these moments in our lives that basically kind of change, ourselves and who we hopefully want to become, right? So, like, even now, like, everyone's like, well, you're a young man. You're right. I am a young man. I know that there's a lot more that I need to do in my life. But I also know that I'm not going to let fate, right? Because I always like that word fate. Because a lot of people, whether you believe it or not, right? We're always tied to something and we're always like, we're destined to do something. So, like, again, when you find your purpose, when you find that passion, those things that motivate you to do those things every day, I got lucky in the last almost 6 months to do a job that I never thought I was able to do. It's challenging. There's a lot of work to it. There's certain things that I'm like, okay, I'm learning. I'm trying to do all these things, but it's allowed me to finally get to a point of like, okay, this is what I've been wanting to do. And it's nice to be in that point, but like, this isn't my end goal. Like, this is not what I want to do for 20, 30, 50 years. Like, it's a good experience. And like, I think that's the thing where, we can't change ourselves in one day. Right. And I think with Scrooge, like, I mean, granted, I know in the story, like he does in like literally a day or like a night. But like, I think the symbolism here is that, when you look at yourself and you say, okay, yes, in the story, like, yes, it changes in one night, whatever. hopefully the goal for you is you start to slowly like have that self-awareness, have that realism to yourself and say, "Hey, you know what? I need to start working on this." And then it's baby steps, man. I mean, they always say that it takes 21 days ish to break a habit or a behavior, right? But it's also the meaningful impact of that because you're consciously making that decision every day to want to do that. So for his sake, in the story, granted, yeah, he was a fear of death, and that motivated the hell. And I would fear everybody at that point. But like,
Yeah, I mean, I think there was more to it too, because I mean, some of the things that he saw, yeah, like he saw his grave and it was open, and he fell into it, and that's what kind of woke him up at the end. But I mean, there was more because like he did see, you know, the tattered bedroom with people gathering like the bed curtains and stuff and trying to sell them. Um, and they're all joking like, "Oh, this was his," and it was just like nothing that he left behind. It really showed that nothing that he had really mattered. Like they were just a bunch of, poor homeless people that were scrounging the scraps that were left behind, trying to make whatever coin they could on what was left behind. And that was basically that was his legacy. Like nothing. It was nothing. And you see him and it's set, you see the grave and you see the open grave, and it's kind of that ultimate moment. But it brings you all the way back to the very, very beginning when you first see his partner. um I forget the partner's name, to be honest.
yeah, I can't remember his partner's name, but
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
all right. So why you keep doing that? I mean, so here's the biggest thing.
I don't want to go into the blueprint challenge
No,
yet.
no, no.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm still focusing on this. So the biggest thing here, right? So this is where we need to start, reflecting on our
I
own
got it.
personal evolution is, basically time travel. Every choice, today shifts the timeline of who we become. The future is not prophecy, it's potential. So basically what I was saying before, but go ahead. Tell us who his name was.
So what I was trying to get to before was the whole idea for seeing the grave and seeing the that open grave and the tombstone and everything does bring you all the way back to seeing his partner initially. At least it did for me when I watched this movie, because when you first see his partner, you see all of those chains.
Oh, right. Yes.
And there's one version, I want to say it's the Albert Finney version, but it could be the Alistar Sim version. There's one version that shows, and Jacob Marley is his partner, by the way.
Oh, that's
Um,
yeah.
but there's one where Jacob Marley is explaining that because Ebenezer Scrooge asks him like, "Why do you have such a heavy chain? Like, just put it down. Like, why are you carrying this chain?" And he's like, "Well, this is the chain that I forged in life. I now have to carry it in the afterlife." And it was, basically in throughout Jacob Marley's entire life, everything that he did, he made the chain. Like he's made every single individual link of and this chain was huge. But there's a scene in one of these versions that shows Ebenezer in the afterlife, and it shows how long his chain is, and it's big. It's a huge chain. It shows it like going up and down stairs. It's huge chain, and he's telling him like you're gonna be visited by these ghosts, but you just get this like sense of weight and heaviness. Like if you don't make a decision or choices to be different, your chain and your weight that you're going to carry is going to be much heavier, right? And this is like when you see this tombstone and you see this grave, it's like oh shit. Like it's coming full circle right now because here we are, like no legacy, nothing left behind. You impacted nobody.
Well, and here's the thing too with that. I mean, the symbolism behind that too is like, you're thinking about all the burdens, all the sins, all those things that, you made that active choice, and you're trying to, uh in this case for Scrooge, like he's seeing all these choices that he's made, and like you said, there's no impact, there's no sense of community, there's no family or friends to leave that legacy behind, all this other stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you look at like just like yourself, right? Like we talk about again this like evolve idea, right? Because we're trying to become a better version of ourselves, and so again, it's that active choice, it's that active knowing of how do we change even just one thing at a time to get to that point. So for his sake, when he's looking at this and he's like you said, the oh shit moment, and he's looking at his grave and he sees this chain and you're seeing all this, like that's where we need to be. And I think, again, as a society or as like individuals here, you know, I'm not saying you have to, change over one night. I mean, again, Rome wasn't built in one day. You have to start somewhere. You have to
Yeah.
build upon yourself. So
Really
really,
step by step.
right, step by
Step
step
by
by
step.
step. Ooh, babe. And he's like, shut up.
No, no,
He's
no,
like,
no, no,
karaoke
no.
night? No.
No, no,
No,
no.
I just, like I said, I think that's really what we're trying to get at, right? So again, you can't change the past, but you can make your future self proud, because enough to forgive itself. Drop the mic.
That's the real F word, forgive.
I see what you did there. You sneaky.
Aha!
You sneaky.
Yeah, look at that. So yeah, it's just that moment where, he looks at his tombstone and he's like, "No, tell me it's not true." And, he gets pushed in, or like I don't know if he gets pushed in, but some
I'm pretty
version
sure
I
he
think
gets pushed in.
he
Yeah.
gets pushed in, some he falls in, but he ends up waking up, and he realizes like I didn't miss Christmas, and he can still make, those choices.
Right. And
And
then that's where he goes crazy. He's like, here, here's some money. Here's some money. Here you go.
yeah, and he buys the biggest bird and he, delivers it to the Cratchits, and he's making these changes. And you can see it on his face. Like he's made in his brain, he's made a switch. And obviously that's not like going to be the same for everybody because this is a story, right? And
Right.
but you can say like, was it a fever dream? Was it, call it what you want to, but he had an experience that changed and made him think about what he was doing and who he was as a person and who he wanted to be.
I think the also valuable lesson here too is that even though when you're looking at Scrooge as a whole and you're, noticing that he's, yes, we call him an a-hole, we call him all this. I think, like I mentioned before in the very beginning, is like, not everybody gets the opportunity to think about it like this too. Again, it's not always about that giving or receiving, right? Because like anyone can give, anyone can, be helpful in that sense, and anyone can receive things. Of course, everyone loves receiving things, but really, it's the presence that you give, or that time that you're willing to spend with others, because that also can make that difference. Because again, if you look at a family like the Cratchits, right? I mean, they were already happy. They were fine. That yes, there were struggling times. There was this, but even when Scrooge delivered that burden, like, and then the Cratchits were like, "Do you want to join us?" And he was like more than happy to join.
Yeah, no,
This time.
there was joy. Like there was genuine joy that came over him. And it wasn't just about him like, "Oh, I need to buy them a turkey because I need to repay them for the bad things I've done." No. Like he wanted to make sure they had enough food,
Right.
that they had presents, that they had a good like there was joy there, like, and he went to his nephews and celebrated Christmas despite like, yeah, I really don't want to go there because he was his sister's son,
Right.
and he was really close to his sister who died, and he wasn't there when she died, and that was a really pain point for him in the story. So it was like the nephew was that reminder of yeah, I screwed up because I wasn't there for my sister when she died. And here comes my nephew who wants to be part of my life, and I just have this constant reminder of my screw up every time.
Right, but then like that's where you would think too, even though because of that pain, you would think to yourself like, now how do I change it so that it's not, that constant reminder?
But
Because
we're thinking that because we're not in the
no,
pain.
I
Right.
know, but
But
that's
for him, it's like, no, I just avoid. When he comes around, just act like an asshole so he goes away.
right.
You know what I mean?
No,
So
and I get that.
that's the mode I think that he got himself in. And then when he experienced this and realized like I can't be this way, then that's when he goes and it's a different feeling. So how
Uh-oh.
can we make this change as well? And I think that this is where our blueprint challenge comes to play.
Dum dum dum.
And we have to visit our 3 ghosts.
All right, I'm letting you start, Matt. No. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think we, December, especially around Christmas time, after Christmas time, is when we generally, as a society, we open our gifts and then we go, oh, I'm returning that. right?
No, there have been some time. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
But we need to treat December, whatever is left of this month, and even maybe January, as like the store return counter for our souls.
Oh, you drop that truth knowledge, buddy.
Oh,
You
boy.
do it.
I'm doing it, man.
You drop it.
So we need to, and I say 3 regrets or mistakes, but honestly, you could do more or less. It's really what you want to do, but you can list 3, 4, 10, 15, 2,
Personalize it.
whatever you want. But list these regrets or mistakes that you want to exchange before the year ends. And then
don't you dare go down that hole.
and
Then
it's not an exception. You're listing these, but also what you'll exchange for them in the new year.
Ooh, I like that.
So you have to think of, what am I returning and what am I exchanging it for? So
think of like gains and losses.
If your grandmother bought you a really crappy sweater,
An ugly sweater, yep.
I'm going to bring that back to the store to return it. What are you exchanging that for? And this is some of the examples I don't know. That's not good grammar, but whatever. Returning procrastination in exchange for daily progress, no matter how small or insignificant you think it is.
Okay.
Right? Return people pleasing.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
It's a strong one.
In exchange for healthy boundaries.
So basically, I think he's mentioning. No, that's not what I mean. Like he's mentioning me, but actually, I guess in some ways, sure, I could work on.
Well, you need to stop pleasing everybody.
And you know what, Matt? Maybe I should start healthy boundaries for you now.
Return self-doubt in exchange for one brave decision.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Week.
Before you go any further, maybe that's the one that you need to work on, Matt. Self-doubt versus one brave decision every week. Like going into Walmart and greeting everybody. What was that? What was that one?
Oh, I'm not going to greet everybody. Screw that crap.
Be like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Walmart.
Return resentment in exchange for release, even if they never apologize.
Oh, I see. You're looking at me like I need to apologize for something?
I release you, John.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Return the fear of failure in exchange for learning out loud.
Wow. So I think the two you need to work on is self-doubt and the feel of failure. There you go, Matt. There's you can work on those two.
You can work on people pleasing and procrastination, John.
Wow. He's getting real deep with that. Oh, fine. You know what? Fine. Boom. If I got to work on those two, you're working on those other two. That's all I got to say.
Oh boy. There we go. But yes. So that's our blueprint challenge. So obviously these are just examples. You can choose those, but you can look. You have to kind of look at your own life and be like, yeah, I regret this, or I've made a mistake in this area. Um, and you write that down, like, I am going to return this in exchange for this. It doesn't have to be related to what you're returning, because if I got a sweater I don't like, I might not get a sweater. I might get a pair of pants or a pair of socks or something that's not even clothing, right? Like I might
More
get
than
something.
likely, he's like, anything to do with the podcast or anything to do with video games. One of the two. No.
But I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be related, but I mean, if you are returning, like I said, procrastination, you might want to exchange it for something like daily progress.
What he's saying is, John, I need you to start learning some of the skills that I know so that I don't have to do it every week. That's what he's saying. He's like, all right, so I need you to stop procrastinating here and I need you to start doing some of this other stuff. No, I'm joking here. But yes. But here's the thing. And I think this is probably one of the most important things, especially with this whole story here, right?
Yeah.
So Scrooge's journey was never about the ghosts.
What?
Ready? It's actually about accountability.
Oh, you said
wow.
You said the real A word right there.
I know the real A word, not the F word, but the A word here. Yes, the accountability, because it's true, right? Because we need to be accountable for our actions and ourselves, and again, there are consequences, good and bad. So you have to think about the choices you make every day, and this is where we all tie this kind of in together here. So the ghost of Christmas Past forced him to confront here the ache beneath his cynicism. There we go. The child who learned that love was fragile and loss inevitable. So the ghost of Christmas Present showed him the cost of isolation. That his walls didn't just keep people out; they kept joy out too. And that the ghost of Christmas yet to come revealed the final truth: that time doesn't heal what we refuse to face. So again, if you look at all this stuff here, right, the biggest thing, right, and this is why I'm saying time, right? Time is such an important thing. Where we're so busy in our lives, we're so like distracted, we're constantly looking at social media, we're doing whatever, we're distracted by work, we're distracted by our family, whatever. You also have to take time for yourself and say, okay, where can I work, or where are the areas that I need to work on in my life? So again, I understand. Ready? I'm going to say another one. Ready? It's a real B word, I'll tell you.
Oh.
Balance.
Oh,
balance. Since we don't forgive, accountability and balance here. So balance, it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things to do too, because you need to have time for things in place, right? You need to have time for yourself, your family, your friends, your work, your podcast, apparently. All these other things that you might have to list. Yeah. But like, again, here's another little throwing it at you here. But what made him a Scrooge wasn't greed; it was grief. Ooh, that's harsh. Every coin he clutched was armor. Every cold word was a scar, and his redemption wasn't a miracle; it was surrender. Ooh, that's a real S word, I'll tell you.
Oh boy,
surrender. And I think that's a hard one too. I think most people.
Nobody wants to surrender.
Nobody wants to surrender. But hold on. I don't know. If I say this, then you're like, oh well, do we really want to do that right now? No, I'm joking. We did talk about this though. Religion. If you surrender yourself to certain things, then you think to yourself, yeah, there's more to life than just this one thing. There's this bigger picture that, as individuals, we don't necessarily see, right? We don't see always the bigger picture. And so I think, as we look at all of what we've talked about, when you surrender, when you have that accountability, when you have that balance, when you have the forgiveness of oneself, those are hard things to really start to do. But that's why we're saying taking those steps, taking those things in place, because it doesn't happen overnight. And I mean, if you consciously make that effort or you make those choices every day, that's how you're going to start, right? So like, I will say this, like I said before, and I've already mentioned it multiple times, time is literally pretty much everything. Time, I think, is the most valuable thing on the planet. And I think the problem is that we as individuals, time, we always say there's never enough time in a day, right? Because you always want to do all these little things and you're trying to squeeze them all in as quickly as possible. Time is one of those things that we don't always necessarily either cherish or, we think about a lot because, you know, yeah, life is short, man. Like we have to live it to whatever we can. So like, for example, yes, I'm bringing it back to the podcast for a second. We chose to do this. We wasted so much time for so many years, not even, wanting to do this for so long. And we're just like, why did we waste so much time? And then now we're doing it. I mean, I'm glad we're doing it now, but like, I mean, but we could have had 8 years or could have been longer than that. I mean, but
Right.
now here we
Yeah.
are doing this. And I mean, we took a leap of faith, man. We took a leap of faith and we're
Yeah.
doing this because now I'm just like, this is probably one of the greatest things I've done, like being able to do this with you. But like, for you guys out here listening, what are those things? Like, what are some things that, like, yeah, those regrets, those things that you want to may have done, and what are those things that you can maybe say, you know what, I'm going to do it now and not waste that time.
Right. So yeah, I mean, to kind of button up that what you were saying, but his redemption, yeah, it wasn't a miracle, it was surrender, but he finally, like, when he woke up, he let that memory hurt him ultimately. He let that presence humble him, and he let that future frighten him, and the pain of all of those things is what woke him up.
Mm.
And so as we close this year, I mean, maybe that's the real blueprint, right?
Oh, see, Matt throwing
We
these truth bombs here.
we let the ghosts in, and we have to listen to what they're trying to show us, because change doesn't just happen when we decorate the tree. It happens when we stop. Hold on, let me let me rephrase
He's
that.
like, it's like now he's
And
taking everything from me now.
yeah, it happens when we decide to stop being haunted by who we were and start building who we could become.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So imagine the story being different if Scrooge kept that cold heart and didn't listen to any of the ghosts that came to visit him.
Imagine that. Could have been a miserable. He'd be like, well, that's the end of the story. Have a good day.
Right? I mean, it doesn't just affect him though, right? Like his nephew doesn't have, no, pretty much has no relationship with him. The Cratchit family ultimately, like, Tiny Tim dies, right? Because he has an illness.
Right. And what makes you think that Scrooge is probably not going to live another so many years after that?
Yeah, I mean, he's already old, and we already know, based on what we saw from the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, what happens with him. I mean, nothing happens with him because they just sell all of his stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just one of these things. When he initially, yeah, I would say he probably was like, sure, like, let's show me what you got. Kind of a, it's not going to change anything, but show me what you got, kind of a thing. But then as soon as he started seeing, like, hey, this is my old school, I remember this place. Hey, that's me over there. You know what I mean? Like, he started seeing these things, like, hey, this is Fezziwig. This is a fun party. Like, he started seeing these things. It was like, oh wait, no, I don't want to see this. Just take me somewhere else. I don't. He started listening to what the ghosts were saying, and this is what we're saying here. This is the real blueprint: is we have to start letting those ghosts that we regret, those ghosts that show us what our mistakes were. Right? They're not real ghosts, obviously.
No,
Like
clearly.
they're not like, hey, there's my ghost of mistakes going by. it it's just these ghosts that we're using as a metaphor to say, like, it's that ghost of, like, your mistakes, the ghost of your regrets, the ghost of the problems and the issues that you have. You have to open yourself up to what they're trying to tell you. And what we've been saying this whole episode, right? Balance and being able to forgive yourself and being able to stop being haunted by who you were and step into who you can become.
The potential.
A potato.
The potato. What? The
I'm
potato?
just kidding. No, you can step into
No, it's the potato with googly eyes. Keep it right.
yeah. It's a rock with potato. Never mind. Anyways,
He's like,
you
"Forget
have to listen to the last episode, but no, you can stop being haunted and step into who you are meant to become. Again, it's not like you're going to be. It can happen like Scrooge overnight, but you shouldn't expect that.
because that's an
It's
unrealistic expectation.
it's a movie, it's a story. It's probably not going to happen like that, but the whole idea behind Evolve is you make these little steps forward. And eventually, these little steps, when you look back, you'll go, holy shit, like I just traveled a long distance, but it doesn't feel like I traveled that far.
Right. It's true. I mean, you really don't know until you try, and I'll say this. Ready? You ready? Here we go. little quote here. Scrooge didn't buy a new life. He remembered it was still his to live. Because that's the truth, right? Because at the end of the day, we can't ever, because again, money doesn't buy that happiness, right? So he didn't buy himself a new life. He chose, like as we've been saying, to create another version of what he wanted to be and hopefully become. And so
Right.
instead of becoming the yet to come, instead of going into that grave is what he was being shown. Like that's what we're trying to say, and that's what.
Yeah,
Matt
and
is-
most of the versions of A Christmas Carol too, they extend to the next day, where he's in his counting house, and
Oh yeah, he like wakes up from his chair. I think.
Bob Cratchit shows up late, and he's he kind of devised this little plan of still being Scrooge, and Bob Cratchit's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late," and he's like, still complaining, like, "Oh, it's another day's wage, you're just, I'm gonna have to pay you anyways, and so Bob Cratchit goes back, and he's like, trying to like looking over, trying to like light a coal, and to make himself warm, and just Scrooge like explodes with joy, and he's just like, just kidding.
Yeah, it's like April Fools.
He's like, just kidding. Like, you're like, I'm going to increase, you know what? He's like, I don't care that you're late. I'm going to increase your wages. Like, he's like, he's just going crazy. Like, he's like, I don't care that you're late. He's like, I'm going to increase your wages. Like, we're going to celebrate. It was just a great moment because it was like, it's the day after Christmas. Like, he could just go back to being like, no, fuck y'all. I don't like you. Right? Like,
Right.
he could just go back to being like, why are you here?
Yeah, go spend time with your family.
Like, but it was like he still wanted to spread that joy, and he recognized like, no, this guy is worth the money and the effort and the time that he puts in. Like, the extra money will be good for his family. For a guy that held on so tightly to money, you watch most of these versions. I mean, the Albert Finney version, his house looks like a haunted house. The house is so crappy looking. That's the one thing I always question, because he walks in. I mean, there's spider webs. The house looks like it was abandoned for 30 years before he walks into it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's like he holds so tightly onto money, like he's afraid to even spend it.
Right, because he'd rather get a deal out of it.
So for him to just be now would be like, yeah, I'm gonna increase your wages. Like, cool. Like, let's do this together. Like, we're I mean, I don't know if he went as far as like, because the story obviously ends there, but I mean, I would almost see it almost going to the point of like, because Cratchit was more of like the books guy. Like, he was the guy that was like the scribe that would kind of keep the books and make sure that the records were complete.
Right.
And Scrooge was the money counter, the guy that kept the records and would go after you when you didn't pay the money back, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming at some point, like, if the story continued, you'd probably see Bob Cratchit's name right next to Scrooge's.
Well, and that too. I mean, and and it's kind of interesting because, like, I mean, granted, he never had a legacy, but it was almost like he was trying to give Cratchit basically, once he, passes on, it was kind of like he was giving him that legacy to say, hey, you're going to be my heir to what we're doing here. Maybe, but again, I mean, there's so many different versions that I feel like if you wanted to continue the story, there's probably different things. But again, I feel like you can't in some ways because you're kind of left that open ended,
Right.
kind of
I
thing here.
mean, you're just assuming that, like, Scrooge just continues staying,
Joy and,
joyful and you know, donating to his community like he wasn't before. And but like I said, I think you don't see it, but I would assume, like, maybe Cratchit's name becomes, like, he becomes a partner, and
right.
like Marley was. And I would think that that's part of the story. But I mean, Scrooge isn't unique in the way that the story goes. I mean, you can see the same type of scenario just without the ghosts when you look at the Grinch, right? I mean, the Grinch is kind of the same, like,
Right.
maybe a lot less of the trauma.
Well, yeah, that's
You know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
Because that's more of like a quirkier story, being Dr. Seuss. But I mean, you see that he hates Christmas. He wants to destroy Christmas. But then when he ultimately sees that like the Who's are still celebrating Christmas without
Oh, wait,
presents or
hold on.
decorations or anything, he's like, well, wait, maybe Christmas is more than just all of this
Oh, you
stuff.
mean when they all go, "Who for it?" He's like, "Stop it! Stop singing here."
But it's that it's kind of like that same moment when you see Scrooge and he's jumping out of bed and he's like, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it. It's that same moment when the Grinch is like, wait, maybe Christmas doesn't come from packages or boxes, and
all the trees and the knickknacks.
trinkets and the
No, I mean, again, I mean, I know a lot of people will say like, and I'll ask the listeners here too, like, what is your favorite Christmas movie? All that stuff. I know we've mentioned it in our like way back, like we've had it before, but like, these kinds of stories like Scrooge and like Grinch and all that. I mean, like you're thinking of like the worst version of somebody, despising, the very essence of Christmas and or like at least the idea of it and like, really attacking those that, celebrate it on a different level. But I mean, I think to myself, like, these stories I feel like are a little bit more impactful or a little bit more lessons in here because, like we said, where, time and, the accountability, the surrenderness of just feeling, vulnerable, like oh yeah, the V word. No, no. Ooh, like, being again, having that presence, having that time around people like that is really what we're trying to get at. And so, with, our Evolve episodes, like we've been talking about, like, that's all we're trying to do is like, we're trying to make you think outside the box and being like, okay, so what is it that we can do to be better? Right. And so like looking at Scrooge, looking at the Grinch, those are two individuals that they had to kind of figure out themselves. And that's exactly what we're saying is that, you could be you could be the most despicable person on the planet, or you could be, let's say like a Mother Teresa, kind of like figure. But even it doesn't matter which side you're on. Hopefully at the end of the day, you're trying to be that better version of yourself. And that's why we're saying all this. But I will say this before we get going. Let's just say, for Matt for Christmas, I decided to gift him a little something special. I don't know if you wanted to mention what that was real quick. As a
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know where you got it from, but
well, that's a good idea that you don't know where. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I've had I've recently, most of my social medias now are Grumpy Beard, obviously,
Correct,
but
correct.
I have gone with, I mean, my PlayStation is still Serial Killer,
Of course.
and I've had used the Serial Killer. I think my fantasy football is still Serial Killer.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
So what he got me was a cereal spoon. It looks more of like a shovel.
That's true.
But it's a cereal spoon and it has a skull and crossbones and it says serial killer.
Right. And it's to say it was just kind of like a little fun gift that I gifted him, and he's gonna, let's just say his following gift, which it kind of goes along with it. It's very similar to it, but it's a cereal bowl that has the words serial killer in it. And so I just thought it was kind of cool, something different, because Matt, yes, I will say this. Like, Matt's gotten me some stuff in the past, and I never expected that from him. So I figured this year, I even told him, I said, I didn't really want anything. I really, enjoy spending my time with Matt like we do all the time, doing, our podcasting and doing all this. So that's why I always say I'm grateful for having him, be the co host with me and do all this, because there's a lot of things, like I said, that we couldn't do without one another. Like I've said, I'm always the guy that likes to talk. Matt's always the guy that's like, let me be behind the computer and let me let me just do all this other stuff. You could go ahead and talk with people, and that's okay. And that's what works, right? You have to find that the balance of those things, or what are those weaknesses, those strengths. Like I said, like that's how we operate. We know what we need to do. Yes. Do I need to stop procrastinating on certain things? You're right, Matt. I do. Do you need to stop self doubting yourself sometimes? Yes.
Oh, of course
you
I do. I was joking about the
Oh no.
procrastination
Well,
thing.
no, but
I
there are
mean,
some things I need to work on for
I
sure.
mean, I think we all do, but you know, when it comes to, I mean, what it comes to when we, with the podcast and evolve and what we're doing. I mean, even with the magazine. I mean, I, I just want to send the message out as much as possible, and I think that that's the biggest thing with these evolve episodes, because I mean, more so than, I mean, I love what we do with our regular podcast. Don't get me wrong, but I think these episodes are a little bit different,
Well, they're meaningful.
and they are special. And if you were to share any of our episodes out, it's these episodes, because
Absolutely.
there are just so many. I mean, we've done so many of them now. I mean, we've done, gratitude and thankfulness,
Bullying,
we've done,
suicide, racism, like
loneliness, we've done, I mean, we've done addiction. I mean, there's so many different episodes, and we do have an evolve page on our website, and there's a playlist where you can actually catch all of the evolve episodes that we've done. You can listen to them all, as well as, get resources and whatever else. But I especially like that there's a playlist just with the evolve episodes, because you can actually catch all of them, even if you don't listen to any of the other ones. Like, these ones are just on a different level for me.
no, and you make a fair point. I mean, these episodes, we're the reason why we're trying to be different, right? So this is one of the things Matt and I have talked about before, is that Matt challenged me, because I wanted to come up with some ideas, and I do have an idea that I'm not going to share right now, but basically he challenged me. He's like, "What's going to be different about what everyone else is doing based on this?" And I'm like, "Okay, fair." And I had to think about it, and I've thought about it a little bit more. I mean, I'm still working on this idea, but I'm glad that Matt was that one. Like, hey, like, what's going to be different? Like, how are you going to be different than everybody else? What makes you special, or what makes it stand out more than anyone else is doing the same thing? But that's the kind of idea here, is like, what's going to make you special in your own way, and to make yourself different than anybody else? Because again, we all are humans. We're all trying to achieve, our own goals and stuff. But like, what makes you special? What makes you that different individual that people want to be around you, and like want to talk with you, and hopefully have that presence.
My beard.
My beard.
My beard.
He's like, my beard, man. Everyone wants to play with my beard. Only my beard. And he's like, yeah, your mustache. Oh, your fake mustache. I'm like, no, it's not a fake mustache. It's
Your fake mustache, man.
He's like, you're fake. All of it's fake. And I'm like, yeah, get out of here. It's still real. It's just not as luscious as apparently your beard is, but it's fine. I'm working on it, man. Leave me alone. Anyways, no, but I will say this, boys and girls, we appreciate your time. We appreciate everything that you guys do. We're hoping that, again, maybe this next coming up year, if you want to be grateful and maybe thankful a little bit, maybe you can start sharing our stuff, man. Like he's saying, like, share a post, share, maybe a comment, do whatever, man. Just help us spread the word, because I will say this: Merry Christmas to all of you out there, because yes, I will say Merry Christmas. I'll say Happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, it's to you guys. Okay. It's not even just about us. So I'm just saying it as a whole here. Whatever you celebrate, I'm saying Merry Christmas because I'm hoping that all of you will spread the joy and the cheer. Hopefully, some of these episodes and all this stuff. And hell, I'll say it real quick. I know it's basically going to be Christmas around the corner here, but maybe you wanted to get somebody a little special geeky gift. You go on that merch store, man. You share that. Get something special for them. It may not come on time, but you know what? Maybe you say, you know what? I want to give you something. Maybe give you a shirt. Maybe give you a little pin or a sweatshirt or whatever you decide, right? Because whatever you can do helps us too, right? Because two dudes on two different mics, we can only do so much. So whatever you can give us, hopefully we want to be able to spread that cheer back to you guys at some point.
Yes.
But until next time, boys and girls,